Hello and welcome to another episode of Cake Bite Presents The Making of Kaleidoscope. I'm writer-director-producer Paige Feldman, and this week, as every week, I'm taking you inside my process of making my debut feature film. We're going from idea to premiere in real time. So y'all, it's done! I have a completed first revision for Kaleidoscope. I printed out all 263 pages. I read through them. I marked every single page up with some red pen and wrote new scenes, deleted old scenes, and now I've finally typed in all of the changes to my computer and I have a clean second draft of the script. I know I still have a ton of work to go, but I'm really excited to be at this phase. Past that first rewrite, past scraping off some of the chaff from that first draft and hopefully giving my script a chance to breathe. I also have cut quite a few pages from the initial 263-page first draft. My goal was to cut 64, so I would have a 199-page second draft. I'm gonna tell you during this video how many pages I did cut and whether I reached my goal. But before then, I actually recorded some video diaries after typing in the changes for each quarter of the script. So after Act 1, after Act 2A, which is around the midpoint of the script, which is the first kiss for Lee and Jonah, after Act 2B, which is the dark night of the soul, the big epic breakup fight, and Act 3, which is the very final part of the script. So I'm gonna play those video diaries to give you a sense of where my headspace was at as I was typing in changes for each of these acts and what I think in general about the revision. And then when we get back, I will tell you all about what I think is gonna be next for Kaleidoscope, next for the next draft, obviously, and also, and most importantly, I think, how many pages I actually cut and whether I made that 64-page goal. But before we do any of that, let's roll those titles. So it is Thursday, May 12th, and I just finished typing in the changes to Act 1 of Kaleidoscope. And I am now having a little Trader Joe's rice cracker mix snack as a treat. So Act 1 of Kaleidoscope is 58 pages, which in any normal size script would be the first half of the script, but for me, my supersized script, it's the first quarter. One thing that's really interesting to me as I type in these changes is how long ago it feels that I was even making them. There are a lot of things that, even within the course of the rewrite after this, in the subsequent acts, have changed, that make some of the changes that I made in Act 1 out of date, in a way. Like there's this one plot thread that I completely eliminated, I'm pretty sure throughout the rest of the script, that is about Lee's job as a lawyer and how a client is helping push her back towards doing photography again. Instead, I've cut all of the client stuff and just had the decision to do photography again be Lee's reaction to Devin breaking up with her in like the end of the first half of Act 1. Which, by the way, Lee and Devin break up at the very beginning now instead of dragging it out to the end because Lee and Devin's relationship was taking up so much real estate that it was almost its own movie. So I'm gonna be cutting a ton of the Devin stuff without killing him, which is really helping the length. Now the length of Act 1 right now is not where I need it to be, but I've definitely cut some pages. However, with a lot of the pages I cut in Act 1, I rewrote scenes completely from scratch, which I think I did it the most in Act 1 and less in subsequent acts. As I found my footing and really found the story, it became less necessary for me in the later part of the script to rewrite scenes and rewrite history, essentially. So hopefully because of that, typing in the changes to Act 1 has taken considerably longer than it will with future acts. One frustrating thing I've found as I'm typing in the changes to Act 1, I'm going to have to do another pass, at least on Act 1, before I show this to anybody because of those aforementioned plot threads that I've basically cut from the rest of the script, because I don't want people to be reading the script for me to give notes on it and then be focusing on things that I already know is wrong with it. So I'll have at least one more rewrite to go before I'm ready to show this to anybody. But it feels really good to have these changes typed in, to have a nice amount of the length cut, even if it's not where I need it to be. It's also nice to see some places where I think really smartly get the point of the scene across in just a little bit of dialogue and a few words and a sense of familiarity between characters. So I think I'm finding my footing, at least in little ways, in Act 1, and that gives me a lot of hope for the future. Tomorrow, on to Act 2A. It's the evening of Friday, May 13th, and like every cool filmmaker, instead of going out tonight and causing havoc, because, you know, it's Friday the 13th, I have been typing in changes to Act 2A of Kaleidoscope. So Act 2A in the first draft went from pages 59 through 150. Yeah, my entire Act 2A, which is a quarter of the script, or should be, was the length of a short feature script. I did an amazing job of cutting pages from this. I've been really brutal. I'm really proud of myself, but I can't really say much more about what I did from this act because so much of it was cutting things that I wasn't actually really reading or paying attention to what I changed. It was more just, all right, deleting these 6 pages in a row, typing out this half a page of a new scene to replace it in order to keep myself engaged and interested and on task. I've been listening to episodes of Friends while I've been doing all of my typing in changes. I've seen Friends so many times, I could probably recite most of the episodes. So yesterday, on Thursday, I typed in changes for 58 pages and I watched 7 episodes of Friends. Today, typing in changes for 91 pages, I listened to 4.5 episodes of Friends. So much more efficient this way, which is great. I feel like I'm getting into the home stretch, and I might even be able to finish typing in all my changes tomorrow on Saturday, which would be amazing because I had planned on it taking 4 days to type in all these changes. But I think if I buckle down, I can just get it done. Typing in all these changes is like a really exciting time in the life cycle of a script, but also it's kind of boring because, like I said, I don't really know what the shape of the story is from typing in these changes because I need to read the whole thing in total. And right now I'm just basically following my own instructions to myself and not really paying attention to what the shape of the script is now. So just gotta keep going, muscling through, finish this sort of like robotic automaton process, wait a couple weeks, and then after that I can read it and know where I stand. But getting a little ahead of myself, I still have the next half of the script in terms of plot to type the changes into, but that will start again tomorrow. So it is Saturday, May 14th, and a lovely hot afternoon in Los Angeles, and I just finished typing in the changes to Act 2B. Act 2B went from page 151 until 229, so 78 full pages, which is nuts. And I cut quite a bit. Actually, this act, I think there were 10 to 15 pages that I just deleted, which is pretty cool, without adding anything else. I'm also noticing as I get towards the end, I can tell that I found my stride when I was writing because I'm not doing a lot of rewriting scenes from whole cloth. It's mostly little tweaks to the existing dialogue, tightening things up, and ensuring that any plot threads that I cut earlier in the script are still cut later on. Stuff like Lee and Devon still being together, which is what happened in the first draft of the script, is now just deleted, which also helped me delete some of those 10 to 15 pages. So now I only have 33 pages to go, page 230 to page 263 for Act 3, which means that Act 3 is actually a reasonable length. And I know I have a bunch that I cut, I think because the Lee and Devon plot thread originally got resolved in Act 3, it's going to be even shorter. Right now, I'm going to say that I have already surpassed my goal of the number of pages I wanted to cut. And that goal was 60 pages. I've cut well over 60, and I still have 33 pages to go to find more things to cut, or really to see what I did cut, and type those changes in. So exciting to be in the home stretch of this process, which is pretty boring when it comes down to it, but the exciting part is just getting to see the fruits of my labor, especially in terms of the page count going down, because that's something I can immediately see that I've done right, which is cool. It is Saturday, May 15th. Actually, technically right now it's Sunday, May 15th. I just got back from an amazing 90s live karaoke birthday party. See? Check out my outfit. It's pretty sweet. Anyway, before I left, I finished typing in all the changes for Kaleidoscope, and Act 3 was really fast and easy because it only went from page 230 to page 263, so 34 pages in total. And I cut a few pages from it even still because there was some wrap-up of a Lee and Devon plot thread, which I already tied up pretty nicely in Act 1 now. Other than that, though, Act 3 was pretty much good as is. The only changes I made were just a little bit of tightening, maybe a little bit of making some dialogue more interesting and snappy, but Act 3 is about where it needs to be, which is cool. I mean, about where it needs to be until I figure out what to do about Acts 1 and 2, but in this world, we're all good. And now changes are typed in, and I celebrated by singing very loudly along with people on stage who were singing 90s hits because my song didn't get called. I was gonna sing Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind, but someone else got there first. And then it was 1 a.m. and I had to go home. So now here I am in the full makeup, in the whole getup. And now it's time for me to go to bed because I am exhausted and it's been quite a fun night and quite a fun few days. Or at least quite a busy few days typing in all of these changes. So while y'all were watching the video diaries, I made myself a mug of tea. It is chai tea. It is in my Seattle International Film Festival mug, which I love because Seattle International Film Festival is where Interrobang, my short form comedy anthology series, premiered. And this mug makes me feel like a real filmmaker and reminds me that I'm a badass and I can tell stories and I'm good at it. And I honestly really need that right now because what I think you saw, or what I hope you saw at least in those video diaries, was a lot of positivity about the process. And that in and of itself is part of my process, keeping positive, because doing the work can sometimes just be a bummer, especially in this weird middle part of the writing process, because on one end you have the super shiny idea time where it's like there's a world that you've created and it's all full of possibilities and you know exactly what it's going to be and what you want it to be, and it just looks and sounds and feels amazing. And then on the other end of the writing process, you're in the polishing phase of the script and everything has been figured out, all the kinks have been ironed, and you're really just getting down to a place where the script resembles the film that you know you want to make. But in the middle of the shiny idea and the perfect final draft is just a lot of mess. You can see what you want the thing to be, what you want the movie to be in your head. I can see it so clearly. But I feel like this part is just miles and miles and miles away from me. It's like, and this is like a related like art metaphor, it's like I have in my head the statue that I want to make. And that's the idea. And then I write the first draft, and that is like me finding the perfect block of marble for it. It's all there. And then in the revisions, I'm just peeling away parts of the marble, looking for the shape that I see so clearly in my head. And I was hoping with this rewrite of Kaleidoscope that as I was peeling away these layers, I would be able to begin to see the shape in my mind being formed out of this marble. Because often for me in my writing process, the first revision is where I start to see the story take place. I can find pieces of that idea poking their way through, showing themselves to me, revealing themselves to me. And I might have a little bit of that in the third act, which is a nice lean size now, and I think has everything I want it to have. I have my characters in the place that I want them to be at the very end of the story. But the rest of their journey, I just can't see that shape in the marble yet. In my past experience, after that first draft, I have a sense of where it's going. I have a plan. I know what I need to do to finish carving that statue, no matter how long it's going to take. And right now with Kaleidoscope, I don't have a plan. I don't know instinctively what I need to do now. And that's really scary because this is an idea I love. I have loved it for 5-6 years at this point. I want it to succeed, and I know what it's going to be. I have this idea right here, and I know how amazing it's going to be when it's done, but I don't know if I have the right block of marble right now. I don't know if I've made the right cuts. I don't know if I have a direction for how to get this thing to appear out of the block that I've created. And that's really scary that I've chosen this idea for my first feature as a writer-director. And is it not the right idea? Or is this draft, is this script, is this version of the script not the script that I should be writing for Kaleidoscope? Do I need to start from scratch on that? I mean, these are all the questions that are running inside my head because I am not used to not seeing a path to create the sculpture that I want to create out of the block of marble after this first rewrite. And so it's making me wonder if I've missed something essential in the formation of this idea and the outline. Or maybe because this is the longest first draft I've ever written, it's just that I need to keep hewing away. But that, on a happier note, brings me to how many pages I've cut. Because while I don't feel like I have a super firm grasp on the heart of the story yet, I do know that I'm making a lot of headway in finding that heart by cutting a lot of the unnecessary scenes or dialogue from the script. So that is something to celebrate, regardless of how lost I feel right now. I know I've done really great work getting this script down towards a length that is realistic to shoot a first feature at a low budget and readable. So I wrote down, you know me, I love the on paper stuff. This is my index card from when I was rewriting. I would write down how many pages, what page numbers I needed to edit every day, and I'd cross them off, and it feels very good to cross things off. But on this index card, I also wrote how many pages I cut. So I'm gonna go act by act, and then we'll give the final total at the end. So first, Act 1 was initially from pages 1 to 58. Yes, a 58-page first act. This act, I was hoping to cut quite a few pages, like maybe even down to in the 30s. And I probably did end up cutting that many pages, but I also replaced a lot of them with brand new scenes. This is the act, as I was saying in the video diaries, that when I cut something, I would typically replace it with something else. Another version of a character introduction, or an introduction to a want or a need or something interesting in the time loop. So this act, instead of ending on page 58, ended on page 47. So that is, if you can do the math, that is cutting 11 pages from Act 1. Good for me. If I'm looking to get to 64 pages, I should be looking to cut 16 pages per act. And so I was 5 pages off. But Act 2 is going to come through for me. So Act 2A, so from the end of Act 1 to the midpoint, which is Lee and Jonah's first kiss, was originally pages 59 through 150. In this draft, it is now start on page 48 and ends on page 107. That was initially a 92-page Act 2A, so an entire feature screenplay's length of Act 2A, of a quarter of the script, is now down to 60 pages. I cut 32 pages from that act. I'm in great shape. I mean, if I were to double, because we are in Act 2A halfway through, we'd be at 214. So still, it feels like maybe I'm a little behind, but I'm really proud of cutting 32 pages from Act 2A. Act 2B, so from the end of the first kiss scene to the Dark Night of the Soul, the big argument where Lee and Jonah break up, which I actually love that argument a lot, and I kept most of it, which is pretty, even though it was a very long scene, but I kept most of it. Started initially on page 151 and went to page 229, which is a 79-page Act 2B. Again, the length of a shortish feature film. However, it can no longer qualify as a feature film. It now goes from page 108 to 157, which is 50 pages. So I cut 29 pages from Act 2B. And finally, Act 3 was actually a very reasonably sized act. It went from page 230 to 263. It was 33-page third act. 230 to 263. It's 34 pages because you have to add 1 page for the 0. So 34-page Act 3, that falls within the realm of reason for any act. And so even if I hadn't cut any pages from it, I would have felt really good about that. But I did cut pages. I cut 8 pages from it, which means that it's now a 26-page Act 3, which if every part of every act, or in the case of Act 2, half act is 26 pages, I'd be at an 104-page script, which is so, it just makes sense. It's a good length, especially for a rom-com, especially for an indie feature, especially for one being shot at a low budget. So now the grand finale. So I wanted to cut 64 pages from this script at least. In Act 2 alone, I ended up cutting 61 pages. And because I cut 11 pages in Act 1, I'm already at cutting 72 pages. And if you can do math, which I believe in you. You can do this simple addition. I said I cut 8 pages from Act 3. That means I cut 80 pages from this script, the length of a short feature. So my page count for this draft 2 is 183 pages. It is still really long, but there are 3-hour movies that play in a cinema today, so I feel less embarrassed and overwhelmed. This is a more manageable number of pages. It's closer to the length of a screenplay, and I cut over half of the number of pages that I will need to cut to get this script down to a reasonable length in this first go. That's really exciting. I was afraid I was going to be too precious with the script or think that I needed a lot more scenes than I actually did. I made some great choices, especially considering that I don't even know where to continue hewing on this block of marble. And getting back into that, I am not going to make any decisions yet. I am not going to keep ruminating on how frustrating this process is and how potentially I might need to rethink this story some. Because what I do after I finish every draft is take at least 2 weeks off. So I'm going to take 2 weeks off from this script. I'm going to let it marinate. I'm going to, after my break is done, read it again. And only then will I come to some decisions about what needs to happen next. What I do know is the story means too much to me for me to just let it go. So once those 2 weeks are up, I'm going to come back to it with fresh eyes and a fresh mind and a fresh perspective and figure out whether I just was too close to it to see the shape emerging from the marble, or whether, I can't see the shape yet, so maybe I need to strengthen my outline or find something else to look for within this story so I can make it the best it possibly can be and resemble that idea as much as possible. So while I'm going to be taking at least a couple of weeks off from the script for Kaleidoscope to get myself reset and ready to dive back in, what I won't be taking time off from is this channel. I like sharing my process here too much, and y'all keep me focused and centered. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back next week for more here on Cake Fight Presents. Bye.